Hello, everyone. I officially welcome you all to the International Student Orientation for Fall 2026, Part 1, Study Permit and Travel Tips. For a more comprehensive understanding of your pre- and post-arrival journey, we encourage you to attend our other sessions in this series as well. Those of you who are watching the recording today, please note that the auto caption functionality may not be 100% accurate. I would like to respectfully acknowledge that Simon Fraser University is located on the unceded traditional territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, Cotsee, Coquitlam, Hittite, Kwantlen, Semiahmoo, and Tuasin nations. What I've just shared is a land acknowledgement. Some of you may be familiar with land acknowledgements, while it might be something new for others. We acknowledge the land to honor the indigenous peoples who have lived and worked on this land historically and presently. Here's the agenda and list of topics we will be covering today, starting with study permits, enrollment requirements, working in Canada, travel tips, then admission and deferrals. We'll have a Q&A portion at the end of the presentation for any remaining and additional questions that you may have. All right, so now let's start with some welcome and introductions. Firstly, we have Prerna, our International Student Advisor, Immigration Specialist, who will be presenting on the immigration topics today. We also have our partner, Hannah, our Academic Graduate Student Support Specialist from the Faculty of Graduate Studies Office. And Hannah will be covering topics about admissions and deferrals. My name is Sophia, and I'm also an International Student Advisor Immigration Specialist. I will be moderating this session today. What can International Services for Students support me with? Yes, our office, or as we commonly refer to it, ISS, is a key resource for international students at SFU. Our team consists of regulated Canadian immigration consultants such as Prerna and myself, and our advisors are licensed to provide you with advice relating to study permit, visas, and your eligibility to work in Canada. We can also offer advice on medical insurance and navigating the Canadian healthcare system. We offer transition support to new students, which you'll hear more about later on in our presentation. The ISS office also administers our study abroad programs, such as international exchanges and field schools. We also offer unique support to refugee and newcomer communities. You can connect with our team in multiple ways. We offer both in-person and virtual appointments at all 3 SFU campuses. You can also get in touch with us through email. And finally, our website has a wealth of resources on various topics relevant to international students, which students can explore themselves. One of the resources I'd like to highlight today are the welcome guides specific to international students. We have 5 guides tailored for the different international student pathways, and they all come with a downloadable step-by-step checklist of what you should do, depending on your category, to ensure you won't miss anything important as you transition to SFU. We also have instruction guides and other topical information relevant to international students. So we highly recommend you to explore our website and also scan this QR code that you see on the screen. We have a dedicated space for international students called the Global Student Center, which we refer to as GSC. And the GSC is more than just a space on campus. It's a welcome hub designed to support international students and help you feel connected. We host a variety of social events and offer drop-in partner services such as career advising, academic writing support, wellness guidance, and so much more. All of these services are designed to make it easier for you to find community support and feel at home at SFU. I encourage you to join these events at the GSC and come say hi to us when you start in the fall. There is also a QR code you'll see on the screen, which I urge you to scan to learn more about what the GSC has to offer you. And with that, I will pass on the mic to Hannah, who's our next presenter.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. So my name is Hannah Buteau, and I am the Graduate Student Support Specialist in the Faculty of Grad Studies. And I'm here to speak to you today about the Faculty of Grad Studies, our office, our role, and how we can support you in your university journey. So next slide, please. Um, I have control of the slides. Oh, perfect. Okay, so next slide, or this slide, apologies. So graduate studies will be a part of your journey, all the way from admissions through to graduation. A lot of you have already connected with our office throughout the admissions process, the application system, and we are here all the way till the end. So we have a bunch of teams in our office. We have our admissions team, our records and enrollment team, the awards team, who helps with awards and funding, professional development and student experience. So any professional development opportunities that you were looking into, we also have a lot of amazing staff that can support you there. Student support, which is myself and our Associate Dean Student Affairs. And then all the way through to graduation, so helping you with your graduation application, thesis, if you are in a research-based program, thesis preparing, all of that stuff. So our office really covers all the different aspects of the grad student life cycle. Another important really thing to note is the structure of graduate studies at SFU. So our office oversees like the overarching structure. We support the policies, the systems, any forms that you need to do. That's what our office helps support. And when it comes to like the specifics of your program, so that would be your program assistant, your grad chairs, they have the specifics of sort of like the requirements of your program, what courses you need to take, and all those things to, move you through towards your degree. Whereas our office oversees sort of the grander policies and the structure of the university. So if you do have program specific questions, your program is the best source. But if you have any questions about dates and deadlines, how the systems that we use, any of that, that would be our office. So we work a lot in collaboration with your program as well. So if you come to us first instead of your program, that's fine. If you come to your program first, either or, we all work together to help support you throughout your time in grad. My role specifically, I oversee student support for students that are having any complex issues that are impacting their ability to move forward. I work a lot in collaboration with ISS as well. For all you international students, there's always, the study permit aspect and the international student status aspect of it. So we just work to sort of figure out what the issue is and resolve it so that, the hardest thing you should all be doing is your studies and your research. Everything else, we're here to help. Next slide, please. So where to reach us? So we are located on the Burnaby campus in the Maggie Benson Center. And luckily, we are actually right next door to International Services for Students. So you can visit us at the same time if you want. If you're unable to come to the Burnaby campus, or you're in Surrey or Vancouver, or you just don't want to come to campus, you can also connect with us online. Our website has a wealth of information. And then if you have a specific question, we use a ticketing system. So if you just go to our contact page on the website, you can just submit all of your emails and questions and inquiries there. And then I also have my contact information there if you have a more specific question. Another thing to note about my office is everything's confidential. So if you tell me something, I don't go to your program. It's just sort of a space where you can just ask questions, get the facts from grad studies. And yeah, it's just whatever we can do to help. Next slide, please. So Research Commons. So I'm actually not part of the Research Commons, but I'm a big fan of the Research Commons. SFU has a dedicated space for graduate student. They have dedicated programs, workshops, events. They have an amazing thesis writing workshop. It's this intensive, like 3-day thing. So, we're all starting right now, but when you sort of are moving towards that research phase or near the end of your degree, I would highly recommend it. They also have writing consultations. So one service that I 100% recommend, they have this thing called the Read Ahead service, where you're able to submit work and ask for specific feedback. Like, hey, can you oversee my sentence structure? Can you look at the citations? So a lot of really great if you're not the strongest writer, if you hate citations, I personally hate all citations. I hate academic writing. So it's just such a great support where you have these experts that are here to help you. And as a grad student, you just have full access to this. Thesis templates, and they also have workshops on different types of research programs and Vivo, Zotero, all of these things. You might not know what any of these things are. I didn't know what they were, but the library will help explain them all. There's a lot of great research support. So I highly, highly, highly recommend checking out the library. You get access to it with your student status. So yeah. And that, I believe, is the last of my slides at the moment.
Apologies. Sorry about that. Okay. Hi. Thank you, Hannah. Moving on to Prerna.
Okay, let's move to next slide, Sophia.
So our first question for Prerna today is, what immigration documents do I need to study at SFU?
Great. Thank you, Sophia, for asking the question. Let's move on to the answer on the next slide. Before I answer the question, I would like to let everyone know that immigration information that we are sharing today is accurate as of July 10, 2026, as of this morning. Immigration policies and processes can change. So we always recommend that you check IRCC website and connect with our team if you need support. I also want to reassure everyone that we will be covering a lot of information in today's presentation, and you do not have to memorize everything. If you forget something or you need immigration support during your time here at SFU, International Services for Students is here to help you access these resources. Okay, so now let's talk about the immigration documents. The two main categories are travel documents and status documents. Travel documents are documents that allow you to travel to Canada. Examples include a temporary resident visa, which is called a TRV, or an ETA, which is electronic travel authorization. Whether you need a TRV or an ETA, it depends on your country of citizenship. Students from visa-required countries will need a TRV, while students from visa-exempt countries will need an ETA. However, US, if you're a citizen of US, you don't need a TRV or an ETA to travel to Canada. It's important that you know that TRVs and ETAs are travel documents only. They allow you to travel to Canada, but they do not provide any legal status inside Canada. If you applied for a study permit from outside Canada and it's been approved already, you must have received a TRV or an ETA as part of your study permit approval process. On the other hand, status documents are documents that authorize you to stay and allow you to do certain activities inside Canada. Examples include study permit, work permit, visitor record. For international students, your study permit is your status document that allows you to study in Canada, and it has certain conditions on it that you must follow as a student. For students who applied for the initial study permit from outside Canada, your study permit is typically issued when you arrive at a Canadian port of entry, which is airport for a lot of you. A CBSE officer will review your documents, including your approval letter, and issue you a study permit based on the approval letter. Once you receive your study permit at the border, make sure it has the right conditions on it. It has the right study conditions. It has the right work conditions. We'll talk about working in next few slides. Okay, let's move on to the next question, Sophia.
Yes, thank you, Prerna. Question number 2. I have a study permit from my previous Canadian school. Do I need to apply for a new study permit?
Yes, so in November 2024, IRCC introduced changes for study permit holders who are changing institutions. Under these changes, most students are required to apply for a new study permit and receive approval before they can begin studying at their new institution. This includes students transferring to SFU from another designated learning institution within Canada. If you are transferring from another institution to SFU and you've applied for a study permit extension, IRCC is currently prioritizing those study permits, and they have mentioned that they will be approving those study permits within 60 days of application. Let's move to next question.
Perfect. I am applying for my SFU study permit. Do I need a provincial attestation letter or a PAL?
So in the slides, you'll notice that we have a QR code. So make sure that you scan these QR codes to get more information on these certain topics. The QR codes are either to IRCC website or SFU website, and they provide more information. For example, the QR code on this slide provides more information on provincial attestation letters, and it provides more information on faster processing for doctorate students. So as of January 2026, IRCC introduced changes to PAL requirement for master's and doctorate students. Under the current policy, students applying for a study permit at a degree granting graduate program such as master's degree or doctor's degree at a public post-secondary institution like SFU do not need a PAL when they apply for a study permit application. So if you've already applied for a study permit, you're not required to submit a PAL. You are exempt from PAL. Students applying for a doctorate level degree program may be eligible for faster study permit processing if they're applying online from outside Canada and meet IRCC's requirement. And then your application for doctorate degree must be online to be eligible for faster processing of study permit by IRCC. So let's talk about enrollment requirements and working in Canada.
All right.
Slide.
Yep. Do study permit holders have to study full-time every term?
So this is one of the very common questions that we receive from international students. I recommend that you review SFU's enrollment information. Make sure that you scan the QR code to find what full-time studies mean for you as a graduate student. As a study permit holder, it's important that you understand and comply with the conditions of your study permit while you're in Canada, which means that you must actively pursue your studies. This also means that you're expected to make reasonable progress towards completing your program and remain enrolled during your required academic sessions. For graduate students, enrollment requirements depend on level of study and program, but generally for most graduate students, spring, summer, and fall term are considered required academic terms. Let's move on to the next question regarding working.
Can I work in Canada while I am studying?
When thinking about working in Canada as an international student, the first and most important step is to review the conditions listed on your study permit. Your study permit will indicate whether you're authorized to work and what conditions apply to you. To be eligible to work on campus, you must have a valid study permit with the appropriate work authorization and be enrolled full-time at SFU. You also need a social insurance number or SIN number before you can begin working. Some examples of on-campus work include working on SFU campus, whether it's Burnaby, Surrey, or Vancouver campus. You can work for a faculty member, you can work as a teaching assistant or a research assistant. You can work for a student organization, or you can work for a private business located on campus that provides services to university community. And there is no limit to the number of hours you can work on campus as long as you meet the requirements to work on campus. Next slide. So in this slide, we will talk about working off campus. You may be eligible to work off campus as international student. Under current IRCC policy, eligible students can work up to 24 hours per week off campus during regular academic sessions. Students may be eligible to work full-time during scheduled breaks. There are only certain programs, certain graduate programs that offer summer as a scheduled break. For most programs, summer is a required term. The eligibility requirement for off-campus work are similar to what we discussed for on-campus, that you must have a valid study permit with the right work conditions. You must be enrolled full-time in the term you wish to work. You must be pursuing an SFU degree, diploma, or certificate that is at least 6 months, and then you have a SIN number. In the next slide, we will talk about co-op work terms. IRCC recently introduced an update in April this year. Under the current policy, eligible international students may no longer need to apply for a separate co-op work permit to participate in SFU-approved work term. Instead, eligible students may be able to use the work authorization listed on their study permit as long as they meet all the IRCC requirements that we discuss in this slide. Some of the eligibility criteria include having the appropriate work authorization conditions listed on your study permit. You must have a confirmation from your institution, from SFU, that work term is a required component of your program. The confirmation must be included in either SFU co-op letter or your letter of acceptance that you received. IRCC may request this letter if they wish at a later time. Your study permit must also remain valid during your work term, or you must have applied to extend your study permit before it expires, and you can benefit from the maintained status. Additionally, you must meet IRCC's enrollment requirements. The co-op or work component must make up to or less than 50% of your overall program, and you must have a SIN number before you begin working. In next slide, yes.
Thanks, Prerna. Can I stay in Canada and work after I finish my studies at SFU?
Again, this is one of the most common questions that we receive from students, and many students are interested to stay in Canada after completing their studies. One option that may be eligible for that may be
Hi, Prerna. I think you muted yourself. Oh, let's see. I think Prerna got kicked out over Zoom. Apologies. Thank you for your patience. Okay, so there was an internet issue on Prerna's, and she's just logging back in. Let's just give her a few minutes and then we can resume. Thank you for your patience. Oh, she just messaged me and said, my computer just shut down and began restarting. I'm logging back in. Technology, am I right? The joys of working in a hybrid-friendly institution. Let's just give her a few more minutes. I see some students who are also just joining in today. Thank you for coming in. We're just waiting for a presenter to log back in because of technical difficulties. Again, thank you for your patience. But currently, we are on the topic of post-graduation work permits and eligibility requirements. While we are waiting for Prerna to log back in, I do want to mention again that I've shared the slides via chat, and you don't have to take notes right now, or you don't have to memorize anything. We are also going to send a post-session email with all the resources that we've covered today, so you don't have to take notes or anything. She's back on. Hi, Prerna.
Hello.
Hello.
My apologies for the technical issue. Thank you, Sophia, for carrying on. Yeah, do you want me to finish the slide or I'm happy
Yes,
to move it?
yeah, so I haven't actually touched on this slide yet, so please feel free to carry on and continue on your presentation.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you so much. So let's talk about post-graduation work permit. I highly suggest, so this slide will only cover some basic information about post-graduation work permit. So please scan the QR code if you want more information on PGWP and its requirements. And even during your journey here at SFU, we'll have more sessions and more workshops covering post-graduation work permit as a major topic. So PGWP or post-graduation work permit is an open work permit that allows eligible graduates to work in Canada after completing their program. For example, if you graduate from a master's degree that is 8 months in duration or more, you become eligible for a 3-year PGWP. So some of the key eligibility requirements for PGWP include completing a program that is at least 8 months in duration and maintaining full-time enrollment during your required academic terms. For graduate students, this means spring, summer, and fall. Exceptions to full-time studies include final term of study or authorized leave. If you are a part-time student in your final term of study because you only need part-time course load to graduate from your program, you are considered a full-time student from immigration point of view. As of November 1, 2024, all PGWP applicants must provide English or French language proficiency skills proof, that is either your IELTS exam, TCF, or TEF for PGWP. Also, they introduced a field of study requirement for PGWP applicants from certain non-degree programs. However, that is not applicable to SFU graduates from bachelor's, master's, or doctoral degree programs. You must apply for PGWP within 180 days of receiving your final grades and have had the authorization to study in Canada within 180 days of receiving your credential completion letter or your program completion letter when applying for PGWP. If you are interested to know more about PGWP today, make sure you scan the QR code. Otherwise, we will go through this information during your time here at SFU. Let's move on to the next slide. Let's talk about travel tips. What to carry. Yes, go ahead, Sophia.
Thank you. Question number 7, what documents do I need to carry when I travel to Canada?
So when preparing to travel to Canada, it's important to make sure that you carry all the required documents that you used for your IRCC application or study permit application. Some examples include your passport, your immigration documents, which is a TRV stamp on your passport, or electronic travel authorization. If you already have a study permit, your study permit, or your study permit approval letter from IRCC. For those of you who've applied for a study permit from outside Canada, you will have a study permit approval letter from IRCC, and you will get a physical copy of your study permit at the airport. Make sure that once you land, you collect your luggage and then you go to the CBSA office within the airport to get a copy of your physical study permit. Do not leave the airport without visiting CBSA officer for your study permit. When you're applying for a study or when you're at the CBSA office at the airport, you will be asked to present your SFU letter of acceptance. In some cases, you may be asked to present your confirmation of enrollment letter from SFU. You can download your confirmation of enrollment letter from Go SFU and present it to the CBSA officer if requested. The officer may also request proof of funds that you use to apply for study permit application. And if you are from a country that required you to take an immigration medical exam, make sure you carry a copy of it, and it must be valid at the time of entry to Canada. Yes, let's move on to the next question.
Next question is, once my study permit is approved, how soon can I travel to Canada?
Another common question we receive from students is, when should I travel? So IRCC does not give a specific number of days or weeks on how early you can arrive to Canada. Generally, you should plan to arrive within a reasonable amount of time before classes start so that you have enough time to settle in. It's important to remember that you cannot start working on or off campus until you meet the eligibility requirements, including that your studies have started. Canadian embassies, however, often recommend that you arrive no more than 4 weeks before the start of your term. From a CBSA perspective, officers generally expect students to arrive within a reasonable time frame before classes begin. Arriving earlier is not prohibited, but the final decision to allow entry into Canada is made by the CBSA officer. They might ask additional questions about your plans if you arrive early, so be prepared to explain the reasons of early arrival, how you plan to support yourself before your classes begin, and that you understand that you're not authorized to work before your studies start and before meeting work eligibility requirements. Also, another thing that I did not mention in the previous slide was that when you are traveling to Canada, make sure that you carry your required documents in your handbag or in your luggage. Not in your checked-in bag, in the luggage that you carry on with you. That's because sometimes your checked-in luggage does not arrive in time or it's lost. You have your required documents to present it to the CBSA officer at the airport so that you can receive your study permit right there. For additional questions on traveling to Canada, please make sure you scan the QR code and go through our website. Next slide, Sophia.
Thank you, Prerna. Now going back to Hannah for admission and deferral process.
All right, admissions and deferral process. So next slide, please.
The question is, what are my options in case my study permit is not approved in time?
Yes. So the answer is on the next slide. This is actually quite a common issue that can occur. We hope it doesn't occur for any of you, but in the event it does, we have a process. So you can defer your admission to a later term. Students are able to defer for a maximum of 3 terms, so a year, so up until fall 2027. You might need to defer. I mean, generally you'll defer because the study permit isn't approved, but there could be any other reason why you need to defer as well. One important thing to note is that your deferral, it needs to be approved by the program. So deferrals are not automatically guaranteed. You need to actually get that approval from the program. So in the event that your study permit is not approved by the start of the term, which is September 9th, the process to do so is you'll need to make a request directly to your academic program. And then they can, approve or deny, go through that whole process. If it's approved, then they'll send it to our office and then we'll process it for you. I believe the next slide, there's specific steps as well. Yeah, so how to request. So in order to defer, you'll need to have accepted the offer and paid the deposit. You'll need to submit your supporting documentation to your program assistant. So in the event that your study permit is denied or delayed, you could just say, hey, hasn't arrived yet, email your program assistant. Must include the reason why you're deferring. So in this case, it would be because your permit hadn't arrived. And then you need to specify when you would like to start. For some programs that are cohort-based, that they start every single fall, you may have to defer up into a year. But if you're in a research-based program, generally we can always defer you to the next term. So specify the term that you would like to start your studies. It may differ by program, but just, include that as well. And really, really important, if you are enrolled in courses, we really advise that you drop the courses before September 22nd. September 22nd is the last day to drop with a full refund. So if you're sort of holding out and waiting until after then, and then your permit doesn't come and you drop, you will be liable for all charges. So we really recommend that you withdraw before then. For students who are concerned about, getting a spot in the class, send us a message. Talk to your program as well about it. Something that people often don't realize is grad classes tend not to fill up as much as undergrad classes. So there's a lot more flexibility when it does come to grad classes, especially seminars and research-based courses. So if your concern is that, you're enrolled in the class and you'll lose a spot, just send us an email and we can sort of make sure that we're keeping that in mind. And that way you're not charged anything. In the event that your permit does get accepted, you'll be able, to re-enroll and all of that. And then if you are living on residence, you'll have to notify residents and housing as well, just about the deferral term. So again, just a quick overview. If you need to defer, send an email to your program. They will go over if it's possible, and then they'll send everything to us to process it. And it is quite common, unfortunately, that students need to defer, so don't worry, it's quite accessible. And then next slide, I believe. Yeah, and important considerations, I kind of went through a lot of these. Entrance scholarships and awards. So some of you may have received minimum funding and entrance funding. So that will be sort of reorganized when you defer. Course enrollment, again, deferrals are not guaranteed. If you are approved, we always recommend that you drop the courses to really make sure that you're not charged anything. And then starting late. Now, we really don't recommend that you start late, especially after week 2. It just sort of is hard to keep up and you never want to start off in a deficit or further back. So yeah, and if you do choose to start late, you are responsible to notify your instructors about any missed coursework or sort of how that works. So If you're not exactly sure of your options, myself and ISS are here to help you sort of weigh all of them through. But we really recommend, if it's getting end of August and you haven't heard anything, to sort of start these conversations so that we can make a plan and make sure that you are prepared and able to, start later if needed and not be on the hook for any additional charges or anything. So yeah. Next slide. Emissions deadlines. I believe this one's me as well. So, yeah, important dates to remember if you do need to withdraw, or all of that. So September 8th is our welcome day. The following day is the first day of classes. September 22nd is the end of week 2. So this is the last day that you can add courses yourself. After this, you'll need to actually connect with your program assistant to do so. Last day to completely withdraw from all classes with no notation. And last day to drop the 100% refund. So that September 22nd day is very important if you are not 100% sure if you will be starting this term. If you are starting this term and you realize the class you don't love, September 29th is the last day to withdraw with no notation on your transcript. So if you withdraw, the class is not on your transcript. If you withdraw the day after, the class is on your transcript and it says withdrawn. So just something to note. I believe 2 weeks later, a week later will be 75% refund, and then October 31st will be the last day you can get a refund for dropping classes. So all of these dates and deadlines are on our website. I believe on the last slide there was a link, but also we have a link to all of them as well. So you don't need to memorize these, but just if you are in that boat of not necessarily knowing when, and if you're starting this term, September 22nd is a very important date to remember. So yeah, I believe that's, yeah.
Amazing. Thank you, Hannah. And yes, we have reached the end of our presentation. And thank you so much for your patience going through all this information and your patience for bearing with any technological issues that we had today. I realize that this is a lot to digest, and I appreciate you sticking around with me today. We will now move on to our question and answer portion of our session, and I will end our recording in a moment. So for those of you who are watching the recording, thank you for watching, and we hope to see you in a future workshop or in a one-on-one advising. Perfect. All right. So I have stopped the recording. And for the Q&A portion of this session, we will use the rest of our time. We do have quite a bit of time to get through any questions that you may have. And to make sure and to make the most of the time that we have today, please ask questions around the topics that we've discussed just to benefit everyone. The scope of the topics for questions should be just what we covered today. Please avoid asking questions that are too case specific. And please, please, please avoid disclosing any personal information such as your SFU ID or, for example, any medications that you may take, as we want to protect your privacy and ensure that this session is as useful as possible for all attendees. If you have a question, please feel free to type it into the Q&A box, which I will be enabling in a few seconds. Give me a second. Actually, may I please ask for help with my co-host today? Because I am screen sharing, it's a little hard to navigate. Reina, are you?
Sophia, yes.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Let me know once that's done, and then our students can pop in their questions for Q&A